Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Creative Caffeine podcast. I hope you are all doing well. I want to start off with a huge apology. It has been an absolute minute since I've gotten down to sit down and record an episode of this show. It has been a very, very busy few months for me. I've had a lot of work. I've had a lot of shoots, a lot of editing, and a lot of things happening. I have a child on the way, which is very, very exciting. So this last month or so, I have basically been putting my plan into fruition of being able to take some time off, enjoy the birth of my son without having to stress and worry about work. So that's where I've been. I've still been busy shooting and posting on socials, but finding the time to actually sit down, record and plan out an episode of the podcast. I haven't been able to do that, but I'm here today to talk about a subject matter which I love and I think is very, very, very important when it comes to running your photography business or your videography business, and that is the subject of contracts. The importance of discussing clients' contracts and agreements in photography and videography is what we're going to be chatting about today. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, understanding the purposes of contracts. You've probably seen all the cringy videos of YouTube boxers and fighters going, sign the contract. And there is a huge reason why, because contracts are super, super important. Now, what is the role of a contract when it comes to your clients? It is establishing clear expectations, legal protection for both the photographer and the videographer, whatever you are, and also legal protection for the client as well. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Riverside. What is Riverside? Riverside is the all-in-one remote podcasting platform. I use Riverside for this podcast. I'm actually recording this episode, this clip right here, using Riverside. I've got my camera plugged in and I am using the camera's full 4K potential, high quality audio with no lag, no dropouts. It is fantastic. Riverside has got a whole bunch of brand new AI related features, from AI editing, AI transcriptions and titles, magic audio. If you've not got a microphone or your guest for your interview on your podcast has not got a microphone, one click with magic audio and it makes it sound like they're recording in a studio environment. If you've got a podcast and you're looking to clip it up, you can generate magic clips, which is incredible. It creates and finds the most viral moments of your podcast that it thinks is noteworthy and clips it all up for you. You can add captions and subtitles and all that sort of stuff. And one of my favorite new features on Riverside is their new mobile app, which allows you to use your phone and record in full 4K, which bypasses Apple's limit of full 10HD, like 1080p recording. The new Riverside app allows you to use the full 4K potential of your phone and record a high quality podcast. Gone are the days where you say you need to buy a camera to get great quality video. You can do it all with your phone in 4K quality recording using Riverside. If you would like to check out Riverside for yourself, click the link below and use code Connor Wells to get a brilliant 10% off. Back to the show. Now, for me, whatever job I am doing, I always have a contract, whether it's a small little photo shoot or a bigger scale video production shoot, podcasts, productions, all that sort of stuff. I always have a contract involved. It protects me, it protects my client, it sets out the deliverables and the terms and the scope of work. The scope of work is something that I believe is very important to set out beforehand, the length of the work, timelines, all that sort of stuff. So, what are some key components that you should have in your contract? The essentials are scope of work, the deliverables, the project timeline, payment terms, and pricing structures as well. Also, you should include your rights and usage permissions for the produced content. You should also have as well cancellation and rescheduling policies. Now, that is a lot of things to have in your contract, so let's break it down. So, scope of work. Now, that is setting out what the project is, what you're going to be delivering. That sort of falls in line with the deliverables. So, let's say the scope of work is a 1 hour photo shoot and you're going to be delivering 20 photos, 20 fully edited, high resolution photos in a gallery. That is the scope of work. That is the deliverables. Or, for example, it might be some video content. The scope of work is one 8 to 10 minute long landscape YouTube style video, edited with, you know, all the music, animations, graphics, transitions, all that sort of stuff. But then also the scope of work might include a 1 minute short form version of that video to post on socials. That is the scope of work. Now, and the deliverables as well. So project timeline, that sets out, you know, when the client should expect to see the first draft. Now, a lot of the time, a lot of the time, my clients will want a lot of next day edits, or, you know, to see the finished product within a week. So with that, you need to set out clear expectations for the timeline of the project. Now, most of my terms are within 2 weeks. I usually deliver it a little bit quicker than that because, you know, I'm a quick editor. I'm good at my job. So I often deliver the first draft, which sometimes is the final draft. They take the first option. And I deliver that within 2 weeks, sometimes within a week. But then I do get some clients that are like, we kind of want the photos the next day and the video the day after. Obviously, understanding that video takes a little bit longer than photo editing. But you need to set out the project timeline. If a client does want next day delivery, or, you know, within the first week of the shoot, they want delivery, what I add is a rush fee, which is 25% of the total cost of the project. I use that as a rush fee because, let's say I have my editing list of clients to service. They basically, if that's the last shoot and I've still got 3 other projects to edit, I need to bump them up to the top of that list. But of course, that incurs a financial fee. So always take into account rush fees and put that into your contract. This episode is brought to you by Sneak. Sneak Energy is literally my hands down my favorite drink. I love it. You can probably see over there all of the tubs of Sneak that I've got. Their flavors are just amazing. So what is Sneak? It is a 0 sugar energy drink. So a sustained boost with no crash. There are over 15 flavors. You can mix and match, find your favorites. There is no junk, no artificial colors and flavors, and so much better value at just £1 a serving in the tubs. This is brilliant. This is one of my favorite flavors. It's a new drop. It's called Mountain Juice. Little play on Mountain Dew. It is incredible. £1 per serving. It's incredible. I love it. If you're not a fan of caffeine, they've got the Sneak Hydrate range, which is 0 caffeine, all of the vitamins and minerals that you need, and still keeps you hydrated. It's fantastic. But let's say you want to have something a little bit different. You might be a fan of milkshakes. There is the Sneak Shake range. This one is toffee popcorn flavored. I'm very excited to try this. I've not tried this one yet. This is from their new drop, which is their Sneak Vision. A little throwback to, you know, blockbuster, old school movie days. Even the shaker looks like an old school blockbuster logo. I love it. So if you want to check out Sneak for yourself and get 10% off your order, check out the link below. You will not regret it, but you'll thank me later. Anyway, back to the show. Now, payment terms. Payment terms is very, very important. You need to set out how you'd like the client to pay you. Now, for me, it is bank transfer or pay link via my website. I try to avoid things like PayPal, cash, or check. I never accept cash, like ever. Never have I ever accepted cash as payment for a video project or a photo shoot. If someone says, "Oh, can we just pay you in cash on the day?" It's tricky. It's really up to you. But for me, I would tend to avoid that type of project if someone wants to pay you in cash on the day. It may be if you're just starting out, but for me personally, I just don't feel comfortable going and turning up to a shoot, doing a project, and then getting paid there and then. That's not how I work. So for me, what I like to do is I send a client my contract. Once that's signed and they've agreed to all of my terms, I've agreed to all of their terms, then what I do is I send over an invoice and ask for 50% of the total cost of the project up front. That is a non-refundable deposit, because if they cancel last minute, I might not have been able to fill that job, or I may have been able to fill that slot of the day, but if they cancel on the day and all that sort of stuff, then it's a little bit last minute for me to fill that up and, you know, get some work again. So I ask for 50% up front. That secures the time and date of the project, and also the treatment, the pre-production work, planning the video shoot, gear prep, all of that sort of stuff that is involved in doing a video or photo project. So payment terms, you need to set out when the client is going to pay you. Now, I am pretty strict with my payment methods. Like I said, bank transfer or pay link through my website. And that, when it comes to the invoice for the deposit, that needs to be paid within the week, because I get a lot of requests for shoots. I get multiple requests for shoots a day, and a lot of those shoots are all on the same day. Like literally this month on the 23rd of April, I've had like 4 requests for shoots that day. But because I've had a client booked in for that day, they've paid their deposit, it's locked in for them, that's a full day project, I can't take in any more work, and I won't, because I've taken a deposit. So I give clients a week to pay their deposit, and then when it comes to the balance, I give them 2 weeks. Most of the time they pay whenever I've sent the invoice, because I've got a contract, and they like to get their videos and like to get their photos pretty quick, so they can start sharing them, posting them, using them on their website and their socials. So they pretty much pay whenever I send the invoice. But you do get the rare occasion of a client not paying. But that's where contracts come in handy. It protects you. And in my contract, it says that clients don't get the deliverables until the final balance is paid. So if the client wants their deliverables, they need to pay the balance. So yeah, then rights and usage and permissions for the produced content. I don't set too much rights on my contract. That's just personal preference. Once I've delivered the content, clients are free to do with it whatever they want. If they want to cut it up and clip it up and stuff, that's absolutely fine. The only thing I do ask is, when it comes to photos, is do not edit the photos. Do not add an Instagram filter. Do not do your own edits to them. I like to sit down with clients and make sure we've got the right sort of colours, right kind of vibe for the photos beforehand, so we don't have to go back and forth and saying, oh, you've edited this photo. I want to avoid those kind of conversations. So that's pretty much it for rights and usage. I do have a cancellation policy and rescheduling policy. Now, things happen, people get ill, there's family emergencies. I have had times where people cancel the day of a shoot, but it's a tricky one. It's sort of how you feel. Like, it depends on your relationship with the client. If they're a friend, and you want to reschedule the shoot, it's up to you, really. It's really up to you. If it's a bigger project and I've put a lot of time and effort into it, and they cancel like a day before or on the morning of, then I am going to be a bit annoyed, and I'm going to probably send them a cancellation fee. If there is, we need to cancel because something's happened, like the weather is bad, it's an outdoor shoot, then we can reschedule, because those things are sort of unavoidable. But I do put cancellation and rescheduling policies into my contracts. Now, tailoring the contracts to your business and your niche. So you need to customize your contract based on the type of photography and videography services that you're offered. So you're going to need to address industry-specific challenges and considerations, and create a template for efficiency while allowing flexibility. Now, let's use an example. Let's say you're shooting an event. You've discussed with the client, the event coordinator, or the person who your contact with this event. You've agreed, let's say, 5 hours of coverage. So you're there, let's say 12 till 5 p.m. 12 in the afternoon till 5 p.m. in the afternoon. You're going to be there either taking photos or filming this event, or both. A lot of times it might be both. That's your agreement. But then, let's say a specific challenge. The event is running late. The event is overrunning. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay there, an hour later, an hour and a half later? You might want to be home by 6. You got dinner in the oven, you got the family waiting for you. For me, if an event is overrunning, or like a wedding or something like that, a shoot's overrunning, I have my overtime fees. I charge X amount per half an hour for each hour that I'm there for. The that's out of the scope of work. If I'm being told at the event that it's running like an hour behind, we're not due to finish till 6, I was meant to finish at 5, then I let them know in the contract nice and clearly that was there, and there is an overtime fee. So there are a lot of things when it comes to photo and video projects where there could be some challenges, and it's good that you set them out in your contract. Now, number 4, communication and transparency in contracts. It is important to set clear and open communications with your clients. Now, I don't rush clients when it comes to signing their contracts. I deliver my contracts through a service called DocuSign, which is great. I love DocuSign. I get a notification when they've read a contract and opened it. I get a notification when they've signed the contract, which is fantastic. It's all stored on there. It is brilliant. It's a great way for a client to read a contract. They can download it from there and all that sort of stuff. It's great. It's literally like one tick, sign, signature, and done. Easy. So I make sure in my communications with the client that I always say, here's my contract. Make sure you read it very carefully. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask away. If you get in touch. There's no stupid questions. There's no stupid questions. Occasionally I've had clients come back and say, oh, what's this for? Why do I have to pay a deposit? And I just politely explain, you need to pay a deposit, otherwise the shoot can't go ahead. That's my terms. Those are my terms. If you don't get a deposit, if I don't get a deposit, it doesn't go in the calendar. It doesn't go in the diary. So I always make sure to give the client lots of time, breathing room and space to let them read the contract and understand it clearly. Make sure the client understands the terms and conditions and set realistic expectations to avoid misunderstandings. I have in the past, actually this year, I had a dispute with a client. I'm not going to name them. They were signed to me for 12 months. I gave them plenty of time to read the contract. Unfortunately, they wanted to end our working relationship. This client has gone through multiple videographers and photographers before. They are in I can't say too much, but they're in the fitness industry, and a lot of my other fitness industry clients are aware of this client as well. In a way, they are sort of blacklisted in that community. They claimed they didn't read a contract. There we go. It is what it is. So you are going to run into, it will happen. You are going to run into, miscommunications and stuff. Fortunately, it was not on my part. It was on their part. But these real life case studies and scenarios do happen. And that's where contracts come in and protect you from those kind of things. And ultimately, I'm absolutely fine. I'm fine. I'm all good. But it's to protect you and to protect your client as well, in case you've done something wrong. Hopefully, you photographers and videographers aren't doing anything wrong and breaching your contracts. It wouldn't be good. Can't be having that. So protect yourselves and make sure the client's protected from you as well if you are being a bit of a dickhead. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Next point. The importance of contracts in building trust. A well-constructed contract can contribute to huge client trust and professionalism. If you're doing big video projects and you're not sending out contracts, it just looks unprofessional. It just looks like you're doing this as like a side hustle, as like a little part-time job to earn a bit of money. If you're sending contracts, it shows how professional you are. It shows the client that you've taken time to look at this project and take it seriously. It shows that you are an established business and that the client is going to get a great service. It makes sure as well that the client knows they're going to get what they're getting paid for. If the client is going to be wanting, let's say 20 short form little Instagram reels for a whole day's shoot, they want to know that they're protected and are coming away with those 20 Instagram reels, and they're not going to come away with like 5 or 10. The fact that they've got the contract there is protecting them, and it's also holding you accountable as well to make sure that you're delivering the content that the client is wanting, and that builds that level of trust. It fosters a positive client relationship, and it just builds transparency. Again, a lot of the downfalls for photographers and videographers is that breakdown in transparency and communication. I think communication is absolutely imperative. I like to keep in touch with my clients and let them know, the state of their edit, or, the day before a shoot, if everything's ready and we're good to go. It just builds a reputation for reliability and integrity. And again, the key thing is communication and transparency. The last thing I want to touch on here is continuous learning and updating your contracts. The photography and videography industry is constantly changing. There's no doubt about it. There's AI here, there, and everywhere. Remember that time where we didn't know what was cake and what wasn't? I think there's a Netflix show called Is It Cake? I feel like there's going to be a new one called Is It AI, or is it real life? Because everything's changing. So it's important that once you've got your contract drafted, whether you've drafted it yourself, you've got a solicitor to draft it and get it, or you've just spoken to other videographers and they've given you advice with things that you should include in your contract, that you keep it updated, stay informed about legal changes and industry standards, so that you're carrying out your best practices. Periodic reviews and updates to contracts for relevance as well. I like to update update my contract, I'd say every 3 to 4 months. Just to make sure that everything is there and where it should be, that, I'm following the best practices, that scenarios that could arise now that didn't arise, let's say a year or so ago, are in the contract and protect me from those sorts of things. A lot of the time when I first started out, I touched on it earlier, I didn't have like overtime fees. I didn't have, let's say a wedding's overrunning, or a shoot is overrunning, a client's running late and all that sort of stuff. I didn't have those kind of things to protect me from the shoot overrunning and me being at a location or at a shoot, at a wedding for 2 hours after I was meant to finish, and not being compensated for that. It's important that you are compensated for those kind of things. So yeah, incorporate lessons learned from each client interaction as well, because it's very important. It has to be done. At the end of the day, it protects you, and having an up-to-date contract, a regularly up-to-date contract, it just gives you peace of mind. It's a weight off your shoulders, and it's something you just have to do. It's sort of like updating your website with your portfolio. You've got to do it. It's good to be done. It's the way to do it. I've probably said it's quite a few times there. Anyway, that is all I have to talk about when it comes to clients and contracts and how important they are for your photography and videography business. Thank you so much for listening. Do check out the sponsors of this episode. That would be great. It helps me out a bunch as well, and I'm sure you'll like the products I've spoken about as well. And I would love to hear your experiences and any other questions you've got related to client contracts, because they're very, very important. They're vital. There's some great photography contract templates out there. I'll try and leave some links in the description below. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of the week. Stay creating, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.